Hey guys, back
Some of the stuff I went in there, some management. Here's our engineer.
starting fire. That is going to be an amazing topic because we're going to spend a lot of time with last night. As such, it's fantastic. But this is an amazing opportunity, and I want to take it and show you guys. So the next two you guys go. You're all just turn around, you guys can hang out.
Hey everybody, come grab a seat. Let's get this thing going. Come grab a seat.
Hey Bingo, please share if you can on Instagram. I can't share on Instagram, you guys. I'm on the phone, so I can't text or share. So please share it out for me.
Come on in guys, come grab a seat and end your conversations. It's hard to fit all this stuff in. I just want to let everybody go for like 3 hours, honestly. I know, I said,
We're going to do 3 hours.
I have to stop.
Just give me the beat. All right, we'll get a little more. That's good. Oh yeah, whoa. Down just okay, perfect.
So yeah, you guys, let's just thank you guys, Josh and Kelly. Thank you for being here. These guys are the full package. These guys are farmers, and they've been doing it up north for 20 plus years. Like, there's mad deep knowledge that goes like layers and layers and layers with these guys.
They
understand the tech and science too, and they're making the social connections and like. Anyways, thank you guys for all that you do. You bring so much life to our community, and appreciate you guys so much.
So, lots of love. Thank you so much for showing up today. It's amazing to be in this part of the evolution of cannabis and the evolution of our family. A little crazy. It's not really funny sometimes, but we're going to try and make some fun out of it and share some of our experiences and other farms' experiences along the way. So to introduce myself, I'm Josh, and this is Kelly. And we're humus beings from Earth, and we're here to show you all another way of growing. There's a lot of different, amazing types of growing out there, and we just really feel a connection to nature. We really love ganja. We've always felt a connection to smoking it and being in communication with the plants and walking in nature and using that as our guide. And we feel extremely, extremely impassioned with this because we just see destruction all over that we go to with the forests and the logging and the modern agriculture. And we just want to do everything in our power to be the alternative to that, to show you all how we can do it with nature and provide a really amazing product.
So we specialize in closed-loop farming, and I wanted to tell you all a little bit about what closed-loop farming is. Closed-loop farming means that you bring zero amendments, zero nutrients, zero things onto your farm. Everything is in-house. So all of our nutrients are made in-house, all of our soil building happens on our farm, all of the biomass that we use in our tea ferments or in our soil building is all grown on our property or wildcrafted very close to our property. And we feel that it's really important because Josh had mentioned that the high toxicity in the world today, we're losing 90% of life on Earth right now. And I'm not just talking about the black rhinos and the large animals out there that we know and a lot of people are talking about. We're also losing a tremendous amount of our beneficial microbiology. 90% of our biology is going away in really large agriculture. It's being blown away. We're losing a lot of our topsoil all over the world. And with the loss of this beneficial microbiology, we're losing our health and well-being. Not only is the earth sick, but I'm sure that every single one of you here in this room has somebody or knows somebody that's dying of cancer or some kind of a heart disease or some kind of a blood issue right now. So we feel that it's absolutely imperative to bring in polyculture, polydiversity. And the way that we've done that is by education. And I'm going to pass it over to Josh, who's going to tell you a little bit about the Pure certification.
So it's been 20 years now. We came up from Oregon to British Columbia, far away in the mountains, 12 hours from here. And we decided we wanted to do everything off the land. We never wanted to buy any nutrients. We never wanted to go to the store. We didn't like that paradigm of giant bought soils and this palette of nutrients, and then now we're going to grow. So what we did is we just did it all with nature. And after doing it all with nature and just digging up Nettle slides and doing it no-till and the same soils every year, we just started realizing the magic of the herbs and the magic that we were drinking the herbs and the magic that we were feeding pregnant women the herbs and the pregnancy tea and just seeing their placentas and their babies super healthy and our buds really healthy in our medicine. So we created Dragonfly Earth Medicine as organic micronized nutrient product in 2007. So in 2007, we took our nature love and our nature practices and put it into a product, and it's still really relevant today, and it's really, really beautiful. And we also created the Pure certification to enhance those practices. And the Pure certification, there are many people here in the room who are Pure certified. They're really amazing. We really appreciate you all. And you have shown the world that, we can do this regeneratively. We can go beyond sustainability to regenerate life on Earth. We can't sustain the way that we are, so sustainable growing really is not interesting to us. What's interesting is regenerating life and going beyond it. And instead of losing 90% of our species, maybe we'll create new species. Of course, there's new species coming. So if we're going to create habitat, let's create habitat for new species. And the Pure certification embodies that. It goes beyond OMRI. OMRI is not an organic certification. It's a listing service, and there's many loopholes in modern agriculture that they can allow sprays on plants and then still be OMRI listed. So OMRI listed is not organic.
And I wanted to add that a lot of people in the Pure certification are really taking it upon themselves and in their farms to test a lot of these amendments. So we have a tremendously long list of OMRI listed ingredients and also products out there that are highly toxic. You will fail a lot of your tests, and now with testing, it's a whole new paradigm up in here in Canada, and the testing of flowers down in the States has been sort of, let's not try to reinvent the wheel. There's lists of what you can and can't use, things that will fail your tests and things that will be really helpful. So we can't just count on OMRI, you can't count on USDA or Canadian Organic Standard because of the loopholes. There's an incredible amount of loopholes in what you can spray and what you can't spray. One thing that I wanted to mention is that glyphosate, as of 2 or 3 days ago, Canada has just re-allowed it. Well, they never really took it out, but it was up for discussion. So glyphosate's going strong here, and it's not tested. So you have to get a separate test when you want to test for glyphosate. And it's a big deal. It's a cost quite a bit of money. Also dicamba is another one. So over a prolonged use, we have tested quite a few OMRI products and found glyphosate in large amounts. And then people are taking these on-listed products and they're putting it on their soils or putting in their teas, and over a period of time, you start seeing an acidity coming into your soil. And the reason why that acidity is happening is because you're losing a tremendous amount of your microbiology in the soil. So I really wanted to give heads up to everybody here in this room. Know your amendments. And those of you who are not growers, know your growers. Know where it is that your flower comes from.
Even some of the organic worm castings that are produced in British Columbia, that are sold all down in Oregon, California, different places, if you test it, it has glyphosate in it. Why? Because they use a non-organic bran along with peat moss, and they ferment it, and that's what the worms eat. So the worms are eating, it's the residue. So that's why closed loop farming is so important to us. It's not just a hippie thing to do in the mountains. It's a hundreds years old ancient ancestry practice, and the reason why we do it is because it's a necessity. The ganja, it sucks things up out of the earth, which is beautiful. If we want to redo soil, we need to till it back into the soil and remediate the land. The only thing that's going to change the land is microbiology. So let's go into microbiology.
So as I was saying before, we're losing a tremendous amount of species on the planet. And we're also losing a lot of ourselves. When we test the microbiome of the human body, oftentimes in modern medicine, allopathic medicine, they're just really symptomatic. So if you've got some kind of a heart issue, they're going to deal with your heart. Well, there's holistic doctors out there, and there's a lot of naturopathic doctors out there that want to look further, scientists out there that want to look further. So when we test the microbiome of people that are sick, we're realizing that there's a tremendous amount of species that are lost within their microbiome. Is it the loss of microbiology and the beneficials that are making us sick? Absolutely. Absolutely. We know that IBS, Crohn's disease, schizophrenia, all different types of mental illness, anxiety, and these are a lot of studies that you can't find, but we really encourage you to look it up. So we feel like closed loop farming isn't, like Josh said, not just a good idea, but we actually feel like it can save the world. And we do believe, and it might have to, because we believe that small farmers can change the world. And one farm at a time, we almost become a beautiful petri dish of beneficials. Each one of those farms out there that are doing good work and creating good soil are creating an area where those where a healthy microbiome can be. Pollinators come into there and larger species, stops erosion, it helps with water uptake. So go on to the next one. This is gut bacteria. When we take lactic acid bacteria cultures, our yogurts, our sauerkrauts, all that, it really stays in the microbiome into the upper digestive tract for only 72 hours. So we have to keep re-inoculating. That's something that we keep re-inoculating. The thing that we find in our blood and that crosses the blood-brain barrier, the same microbiome, the same microorganisms that are in soil. So here we are, we're going back to the soil. Josh and I feel like the absolutely most important thing that we can leave our future is not money, it's not all of this, ideas of big homes, it's healthy soil. The most important thing that we can leave our children is healthy soil.
And what's nature doing right now? It's making soil. And when we want to fire start the forest because we're going to save our lives, we're stealing soil. So I really want to encourage people to not burn and get the sticks on the ground so that we can build soil. Soil's our future. Like Elaine said, we should maybe take compost baths and be like, I think we might need to drink compost too. And at least have it in our mouths. So like, how we have to clean the dirt off, no, we should put it in our mouth.
And an inoculation, a really powerful inoculation of soil microbiology can last in your body for a lifetime. So it's really important to be in the dirt, eat dirt, be a part of it.
So in the modern industry, what it says here, modern agriculture, say since the Industrial Revolution, 1880, 1888 or whatever, we've lost 50 to 70% of our topsoil. All the topsoil is just running into the ocean. Not only is it the topsoil, it's all the phosphates, it's all the runoffs. We don't have a mycelial mat. We don't have mycelium, we don't have the sticks and the carbon to suck it. So we're gonna go in and show you how to get past this. 7 billion tons of carbon dioxide released in the air. It's not just, like Elaine said again, in Brazil, it's the farmers. It's farmers and tilling, and it puts carbon dioxide in the air. We're carbon people. You know, we are the earth, so we need to sequester carbon in the ground.
And also, this goes along with the cannabis farming. We feel like this is a really new and upcoming agricultural thing that's happening. A lot of people have asked us, you know, is your regenerative practices successfully scalable? And my question back to them is your current large agriculture successful? The answer is no. The successful agriculture is one that's building biology, and that's incredibly important. So this really goes back to, oh, did you? Sorry.
Oh no, the basic point is that modern cannabis growing that's not regenerative, the Aurora cannabises and all the crazy big things, produce an unbelievable amount of garbage every cycle. In Washington, there's articles that say 1.7 million tons of garbage was created in the first 2 years. Million, okay? And in some counties, 3,000 to 4,000 pounds a week are coming out of grows, along with soil thrown away in the dumpster, and along with all of the fan leaves thrown away in the dumpster. It's insanity. It's not what we're talking about. It's not legalization. It's not medical. It's not medicating the earth. It's nothing. It's stupid. So we don't even pay attention to it anymore. Next one. So you find, you know, crazy storms, you know, and you have massive logs falling all over the place. This is just on the side of the freeway. This has been there for a year on the side on I-5 coming between British Columbia and Oregon. And it just goes to show you there's tons of material everywhere to build soils with. And this is one of the most beautiful things in the world. It's all frayed, amazing natural soils. Can you go to the next one? And so we're bringing ourselves into building soil. And what is it? How are we going to build soil? We're going to give you a bunch of different ways to build soil. And if you see this type of root, this has a ton of fungal hyphae. It's got a web, it's got a mat. Water that goes through that will get cleaned. It will save the dirt and save it in there. It protects the microorganisms. And this is the kind of root system that we're looking for.
Soil building. So we think that it's really important. We think that it's the most important thing as growers that we can do on the planet right now. And I think that everybody needs to hone their soil building skills. We're using a tremendous amount of peat moss. It's going away. It's not going to be able to come back. Let's use what we have, which is our savvy, our education, and our land. A lot of people out here are farmers. They have land. That means that you can make soil. Using biomass in large amounts to make soil is important. Here's a picture. Josh and I and the rest of the family, we just did a Dragonfly Earth Medicine Love Tour all the way on our way down to the Emerald Cup. And we stopped at a lot of Pure Farms along the way, and we were inspired to tears. There's people doing a lot of great, amazing work out there. And I think that it really is based around soil building. There's a lot of like key words in this industry. There's no-till, there's different kinds of things. Most importantly is that your plants are going into a deep soil culture. So that's the word that we're using this now. Deep soil, deep roots, deep soil. Get rid of the pots. It's important to talk about Appalachia because branding yourself in the future, right now we're sort of have our hands tied behind our backs as far as what cannabis growers can do here in Canada. But it's really important moving into the future that we have a story. What's the story of your farm? How is it that you got to that place? What's the Appalachia of your farm? Is your sour diesel that you're growing on your farm, if you're doing it in a closed loop system, going to be totally different, have totally different cannabinoids, terpene ratios, and different medicinal values than somebody else who's growing in another Appalachia? The answer is yes. This plant is adaptogenic. It adapts to soil. And it loves deep soil. We were growing indoors, we were growing in small pots for a reason, because we were hiding. The time of hiding is gone. We no longer need shallow pots to grow our plants in. We need to be remediating the soil. We need to be moving the mindset from feeding our plants to feeding the soil. Like I said before, soil is our most important asset that we have. Let's feed it, let's take care of it.
And Chris had talked about IMOs and indigenous microorganisms, and it's amazing because that's where the true diversity is. Just like the IMOs, the biodynamic style from the 1800s is to bury different herbs or cow manures and stuff in bone to collect indigenous microorganisms out of the soil, and then use it in your compost piles to inoculate your compost piles. So can you go back one? Those are inoculated biodynamic compost piles. So you get your manure and your hay and your carbon nitrogen ratio mixed, and then you plant it with biodynamic preps. So you can buy preps from different places in the world. And so you look for your local area, to find those. And it's really, really important that we learn how to build soil and compost piles. So biodynamics is a closed loop farming style from the 1800s. And we really love the natural farming style. Our whole thing is everything. We do all of the things. Like, that doesn't mean that we don't like some things, or that we just want to really kind of understand the full spectrum, because I think we need all the tools we have.
We don't need to be dogmatic in our soil building. We don't need to be dogmatic in our skill set. We don't need to be dogmatic in the way that we're educating other people. What works is what's healthy, and what works on one farm is going to work on another farm, and we can take different ideas from other people, and we can live and learn, and then we can put it into action on our own farm. We can observe, we can research, we can study, and we can find out what's going to work best on our farm. And that even includes like what kind of strains are going to work best on your farm.
So this here is a compost pile of 134 cannabis plants. This is 134 cannabis plants chipped, and that's their stocks. That's a stock compost pile. And it's awesome. It's a stock pile. And they won, this is Radical Herbs, and they won the Regenerative Farm Award this year, and it's just really beautiful, the things they're doing on their farm. Next one.
And when you look at that particular pile, it's really exciting because they had chipped up a whole bunch of their seeded plants as well. And probably right now it looks like a chia pet.
Yeah.
It was pretty exciting, like full of worms with like a week or so. And you can see some of the green sprouts that are coming up in there. Really beautiful pile. And it started out massive, and with the microbiology breakdown, it turns into soil very quickly. So we're going to talk a lot about how you can turn big biomass into soil very quickly.
So compost piles, it's about diversity. So you want to start looking at fall. Right now, we should be equally as excited right now to build our soils as we were to grow the weed or the food that we grew this year. The food, and it's funny because you go on this love tour in the fall, and everyone's kind of like, well, you can't come check out the garden. It's not like that sweet, but you can check it out. And I'm like, well, I understand the pinnacle of the garden, and a lot of times is when it's growing, but if we can find the equal amount of love and equal amount of excitement for building soils, then we're stoked. And now all of a sudden we're driving around, we're like, oh my God, look at that red leaf pile. Oh my God, look at that yellow leaf pile. Look at this straw. Look at that, the alfalfa. Look at the animals. And so you start realizing, oh, I'm going to stockpile that. Oh, I might need to plant more maple trees on my property. I might want to get some aspen trees growing. And so go to the next picture. Yeah, this is all just stalks. There's like probably 15 different kinds of tree leaves in there. Next one.
Talk about what tree leaves is.
Tree leaves, because trees have such an amazing root zone. Their main thing is to mine out of the ground. So they're pulling out trace minerals, and they're putting the minerals into their leaves, and the leaves are tremendously rich in minerals. So why pay a mining company to go strip the earth when the trees are eloquently doing it with longevity and beauty for 100 years at a time?
And this is a great opportunity to talk about remediation and the passover of nutrients and nutrient uptake. We can take soil tests on our soil, and we can look at maybe what we're deficient in, And we can look at what we're not uptaking or what isn't becoming biologically available in the soil. And then we can say, oh, you know, if my plants aren't getting enough copper, I wonder how maybe I can get that. Well, leaves are a tremendous source of copper. They're a tremendous source of magnesium. They're a tremendous source of manganese because they've already done the mining for you. And then your plant roots and the microbiology in your soil understand that breakdown immediately. It's not like they're having to break down raw material of minerals that are hard. That takes a really long time, and you're really lucky if it doesn't wash out of your soil. So we can use plants to be that go-between, and we're going to talk about the nutrient values of some of the biomass that you can grow on your farm as well. To be able to up that nutrient value or whatever it is that you're missing in your soils, you can get it from other plants.
And so we gather fungi. There was a mushroom on that last picture. When we find good mushrooms or just mushrooms in general, pick the mushrooms, throw them on the compost pile. You know, you don't have to know every mushroom it is. You just have to know they're probably saprophytic or they're probably breaking down some organic matter. And if you can mix in some wood chips and carbon in little bits into your compost, then you allow the fungal growth to go more. And fungi just loves to eat carbon. And most plants and straw and stuff is made of carbon.
This gives structure to your soil.
And this is adding structure to your soil. So bones, over here is asking about bones. He makes bone broth. What can he do with his bones? Right now he's burying them in the dirt. Which is a great thing. It just might take a really long time to break that down, but maybe that's good. So do some of that, but then maybe you can burn some of them. Maybe you have a wood stove. You can take your turkey or whatever you grew. You can put the bones in the fire and the eggshells and stuff, and you can unlock them through the heat and then use them in the soil.
I'm just going to add.
Go ahead.
Okay, that thing of soaking the bones in vinegar.
Exactly. So you can get the calcium through the vinegar, and it can bubble out, and then there's also, this would be a way that you could probably just make it in your soil. So then the one with the vinegar can be like a foliar spray, which is really nice.
And Josh and I always say that we are gardening to be 85. So what kind of easy practices can we do on our farm that when we're 85, we can just be able to be very successful in the farming that we're doing right now? We know that as we get older, we're not going to be able to lift the heavy weights that we're doing right now, so we're lifting our beds above the soil. We are creating large Hugo beds. We are making it an easy flow. If you've got a piece of land, it's great this time of year. Where does the water flow on your land? Look at your water flow. Look at what's happening to the sun vibration and the sun path over your land during the winter equinox time. Pay attention in the snow. Where are your tracks in the snow as you walk around your property? What's the flow? It's important. Then you want to build that your land so that there's an equal, nice flow. Here's a great picture here. This is Mahatma Ji. This is from our local mill.
He's really helpful.
Yeah. So as far as like a closed loop, this is something that we do bring onto our farm. It's really close, just like a couple of miles away. Whenever there's good wood chips, we get a call and we'll go and we'll pick it up because, again, this builds structure. This adds a lot of carbon material to your soil. When you're building your own soil, it's amazing how you look around in nature and you're always wondering, oh, I wonder if that's a good soil nutrient, if that's a good soil nutrient. If nature is making it, it's a good soil nutrient. Because just like Josh said, what is nature doing right now? She's making soil. That's all that she does, really. The final component of what nature does is build soil.
Here's a picture of a worm farm. That was a picture of a worm farm. We like compost piles and worm farms, but we're starting to think of ourselves more as pile farmers and layer gardeners, because I think the beds really are the compost pile nowadays.
And that's easier.
But so we'll go to the next thing. So this is making water hash, ice hash. Give thanks to Marcus and the crew and Daniel and everyone who was here last night. When we've always made water hash for a long time, since '99, which is really amazing. And when we want to take some of the leaf is extremely useful in soils when we're building. So if we're making ice water hash over the winter, we can use that to put back into our soils, which is really awesome. We can also make a ferment out of this soil, out of the leaves, but when the leaves go into the water, they get pretty wet. And so they don't really want to ferment with a lot of water in them. So we take the leaf and put it into an apple press and press it down. Next one.
And this was made, we used that press to make some bokashi. So
Excellent.
we made a cannabis bokashi out of that particular one, and here it is.
So yeah, so it's just recycling the nutrients. There's never waste on our property. We have a zero waste farm. We've never bought anything for 20 years. We've been doing this. It's amazing.
And this bokashi is made every springtime.
We haven't made a bokashi for 20 years.
We make our soils for our baby plants. This is a picture of, in the springtime, we do a cleanse with all of our carrots. We save our carrots in our cold storage. We do a big cleanse. So we use all of the carrot ends to make our soil, and it makes an amazing bokashi.
So also there's a organic alcohol company in the Slocan over in the West Kootenays, and we got their grains, their spent grains, because I personally don't want to use grains that are non-organic. I don't want to support the non-organic grow, and I don't want any residues in anything that I touch. So for this, we used a little lactic acid bacteria, just a little, we don't want to overpower it. Next one.
And all of these are inoculants that are setting you up for our soil building, or we're going to be using these as inputs in our soil, or in our ferments that we use, or in our instant teas.
And we choose a spot to put the box where we want to pull up the nutrients. So what we're doing is we're using that bran and that mixture of some soils to basically feed the nutrients to come up into it. Next one. And then it covers the whole thing in a mycelial mat. You can liquefy that, which is the liquid in IMOs. You can liquefy that and spray it, or you can use it like seeds and seed your beds, and then it can just go sideways and laterally. Next. So, a long time ago, we went to Colorado for the first open cannabis show, the first legalization. Drove over the mountains, went through the desert. We're like, you can make nutrients anywhere. We got the cactuses, we got different soils on our trip. And then next one. And we made a box in Colorado when we got there. And inside of the boxes, the different dirts that we made and the cactuses had enough sugars in it to feed the mycelium. So this is just another way, just gathering materials, getting diversity from different places. And now we're just building soils next. So, sorry about my voice.
This is a great example. We take our field and we scythe our field twice a year, and we use a lot of the hay and straw. Hay and straw is another component that helps build soil structure. It's also a wonderful bacteria catcher. Cyanobacteria loves grasses. So if you are using your own grasses, your own hay, and your own straw on your own property, then that's only creating a biological intelligence in your soil. Your soil already knows and understands the microbiology that's in your region and in your immediate area. It's a great idea to just continue recycling that biology and those nutrients within your soil.
And this is what I mean by pile farming and just putting wood on the sides to build our beds up, because the wood is going to get eaten by fungi. Eventually the wood will just fall apart, and we'll just probably start walking on it and put other wood there. And then the hay just goes away. I mean, we probably put that much hay in our garden 3 times a year. And then the whole aisles are basically our compost, and we just dig the aisle and stick it back on the bed. It's amazing. So there's tons of material. So now we're going to kind of jump into what Hugo culture is. A lot of people have been doing Hugo culture. Does everyone know what that is? It's essentially a Bavarian word for hill culture. So it's an Austrian or an Eastern Germany term, and it's just an ancient practice. It's putting carbon on the earth and smothering it in dirt and just letting it decompose.
And it's basically going into an area or region, and you're looking at your soil and you're saying, wow, I don't really have a whole lot of topsoil. I've got a lot of sand and silt. I've got, what Elaine was talking about as dirt. I've got a whole lot of dirt. Well, how am I going to build soil? Well, you get your pickaxe and you've got your shovel, and then you're like, it's not going anywhere. You can't really even dig in maybe. Maybe there's a hard pan. I know here in BC we've got a tremendous amount of rocks in the area. So rather than trying to go down into the earth, let's build the soil on top of the earth. And as Josh was saying, we really don't do thermophilic culture and building on top of the ground. These leaves, within 6 months, are going to become soil. And when you've got proper microbiology and you've got a tremendous amount of worms in your soil, it breaks down very, very fast. So the idea of having compost piles all over the place, you can just put your compost pile on top of your beds.
Keep going. So you could go in the earth or you could go on top. This is Green Source Gardens. This is the very beginning of their whole journey. It was amazing. This is going in the earth. So basically, if you have a lot of clay or you have like a hard pan, like she's saying, it just makes sense to go on top of it. Definitely within one. If you build beds like this, and then a nice walking in between, and then another bed within 1 year, the beds where you're walking in between the beds is totally transformed. The microorganisms, everything goes into the earth. It's phenomenal. We've seen amazing gardens after the first year grow. So basically, you put the sticks and stuff on the ground. Oh, you can go back to that one spot. Yeah, and then fold your native dirt on top of it. So that's where you're getting your appellation, and that's where you're utilizing your terroir. So appellation and terroir is the way that wine people, like Kelly already talked about this, but it's your area makes certain flavors, and this is the way to enhance your area.
And this is a farm that's totally closed loop. This is Green Source Gardens in Oregon. This was just a hillside of really hard pan, all rock. They couldn't get into the earth. This is the first year. This is their first year. So they built those Hugo beds, and after 1 year, they had an unbelievable crop. How much did they spend on soil? Absolutely nothing. Time and energy.
They bring hay onto the property to feed their animals, which we'll go into in a little bit.
And they also have animals. So this is another example.
And again, it's layer farming. You can make these beds that seem somewhat raw on the bottom, but it's the structure that's going to last. So if you built a bed a bed of peat moss, I mean, essentially it's going to go flat and it's going to leach out. And this is a way to keep the structure. And then when you put some finished dirt on the top of it, then you can allow your roots and your plants to have a transition. If your roots can grow through some good dirt on top of that, once they begin their big growth spurt, they just go into all of that Hugo culture and they just eat it.
And that hard pan and that sand and silt that you thought was unusable now is biologically available because you put so much carbon and so much building materials of soil on top of the beds that the microbiology starts to eat down into the hard pan soil that you've worked on top of. Again, this is a 1 year Hugo culture bed on top of hard pan soil.
Next.
Changing it.
And bales of hay, amazing. Just let them sit on your property. If you don't give to them, they turn into dirt. So you let the bales of hay rot somewhat, and then you can use your mulch, and now you're just building microorganisms on a huge level. It's not even something that you can even calculate. It's just monumental amount of just growth happening. So this is our farm, and this is just a super simple strip of dirt that didn't have much to it. We put that, and then next, and then the straw.
Next one, yeah. Oh, I guess you can go back there. This is just, Josh had a thing of the straw here, and I just wanted to say this is inky caps right here. And a lot of people are talking about fungi, and they're seeing fruiting bodies, on top of their soil. And the diversity of fungi is really wonderful. And I just wanted to tell you all, when you start seeing these fruiting bodies on top of your soil, that is the mycelial network underneath the soil saying, wow, we're really digesting all of this soil, we're digesting all of the carbon that's in here. And then they will put up a fruiting body because they feel like, wow, we've got a tremendous amount of food here, or the food is running out, one or the other, and then they will sporulate. So whenever you start seeing a lot of mushrooms, they're making their way through the soil.
Okay. So go back to, and then slowly go into it. Yeah. So next one. Back to. Now forward. Strip, flowers. Okay. Flowers.
You got it?
These are our pollinator gardens, and this is how we enhance our environment. Our farm is environmentally positive. We're building life on Earth off our farm. Most of these corporate farms that are growing cannabis are killing us, killing the environment. It's nonstop. So this is the difference. Again, Mahatma being very helpful. So we're setting up a hoop house. So I just want to say this. We recognize we're in British Columbia because we live here. You can grow weed under the sun. A lot of people are just like, I'm indoors and I'm not. But we love the sun. It gives us the diversity that we're looking for. So we do a lot of light deprivation on our property in our greenhouses.
And our suggestion to you all would be that you have to be done by September 1st and finishing harvesting by September 20th, like complete and done. Here in BC, we don't have the ability to play around with fall. When fall comes in, it comes in like a beast. It comes in with cold nights, tremendous differentiation between the day and the night. And when we have such differentiation between day and night and humidity levels, then it causes a lot of pathogens, and then we start seeing botrytis. So our suggestion to you all is, if you want to grow fire genetics, if you want to continue genetics that will have a place in the marketplace today, light depth greenhouse. We feel like nothing can compare as far as quality, nothing can compare as far as cannabinoid count, as far as terpene ratios. People on our peer farms all over the place are getting terpene counts as high as 6%. This is real, it does happen, and it's awesome.
I'm pretty sure all of the corporate cannabis coming out of Canada is under 1% because of the 6 hours of gamma radiation that it has to go. I mean, that might have something to do with it. That's what I'm thinking.
This is a typical example of how easy that this can be. This is all of our native soil. We just put our straw down from our property. And this is a 1-year bed, and just go right on through it, Sky. Okay.
And then
that was 1 year, and that was out of nothing but a little bit of native dirt, and we use ferments also, which we're going to go into as a tea feeding. As you know, because if you are having a first-year soil, you might not have as much microbiology that you're looking for within your soil, and it might not be sustaining it.
Josh.
You took your skins off maybe in the middle of the summer.
Yeah, it can be really useful.
Put it back on.
Yeah, depending on the environment, depending on, when you get the buds, you don't want to have any kind of moisture. With our greenhouses, we never close the sides for the rest of the whole summer. Yeah. So the sides are only down in the springtime. We're using that to build our vegetative. And then from there, it's a roof. We're not even watering till like the end of the last 2 months of the season. We may not even water one time.
Because our soil beds are so incredibly deep, and year after year, you're building more and more soil to create deep beds. So here's another example, Sky, you can just roll right through this, of a first-year bed. They cut some trees in the area. Wait, you go back. They cut some trees in the area, and they used it to create terraces. Again, these trees are going to be used as fungal food throughout the years. It's going to create soil structure, and it's a great idea to use on a southwest-facing slope on your land.
And they grew 1,300 pounds that year on this one, which is
first year.
Amazing. And we have a really kind of a problem with burning on properties. I mean, that's a huge issue. Everyone's got a burn pile on their property, and they're like, oh, I want to burn the sticks and stuff, but no. What we're saying is, do not burn anything on your property. Use it as biomass, use it around.
Carbon sequestering, it's incredibly important. Here's another example, Sky, go back to a first-year bed. This is on our own property. The problem that we have with our gardens is that we outgrow them, and we have to build new gardens every year, and every year we're like, we're done doing beds, and then we're like, oh my gosh, where are we gonna put the squash? So this was, we didn't have anywhere to put the squash this year, even though last year we had a great squash bed.
So this is rose bushes, elderberries, fir trees, and probably quaking aspen branches. So the idea that you can't use fir or conifers is not a true thing. I mean, I wouldn't say you want 99% cedar trees in your garden. No, you don't want that. You gotta be kind of wits about it, So but fir trees, I mean, of course they make dirt, and it's, you don't have to fear the acid, that people are talking about. So next one. So then we slowly cover it with compost that we're making, and we smother the sticks and basically knock them in. Next. This is a manure. This is like a really pretty green manure, and this is one way of building soil. Next one. You can't really see it, but the other one is with potatoes. So if you just do a big thing of straw and then dirt and then straw and then dirt and potatoes and straw, you just make this big sandwich of potatoes, and after 1 year, all that straw and everything just totally transforms. The other way is with manure and sticks, so that's kind of the hot way and the cold way, 2 ways of making new beds. Back up one. So anyway, that's the first year squash patch, just on a really raw piece of land with minimal top and bottom soil underneath it.
And we easily pulled 1,100 pounds of winter squash out of there with hardly any effort at all. It took us only maybe 3 days to build those beds.
Next. So we're not just talking, we're going to move into some indoor techniques and stuff, because we're helping people all over the world, indoors and out. And then when we're bringing these techniques indoors, Joshua Steensland, amazing person in the back, is doing amazing work with indoors. Please talk with him later, and he'll be speaking with us tonight as well. Here's some examples of doing Hugo-style beds in your greenhouse. Beds in the greenhouse. It's what's up. It's what's for dinner. We're not going to use pots anymore. Basically, the Pure certification, we don't use cloth pots. They're made from plastic. Roots eat plastic. I don't want plastic in my beds.
And they create shallow roots. And again, we're here to make deep soil. We're all about deep soil cultivation.
Here's an LED grow in Eugene, and homemade beds. There's a film going down the side of the bed right here, the black, and that's going to keep the moisture in, because with cloth beds, they can dry out, and if you take the moisture tester, you're going to have different moisture readings around your bed, and that doesn't really help your microbiology.
So what is that film made of? It's not obviously plastic like you were saying.
It's like a rubber pond liner type of thing.
I was going to say, you can keep those pond liners fish safe, right? So aquatic life safe. So a lot of people are concerned when they think of a pond liner, it's just this rubber plastic.
Porous.
Right, but if you could get the fish safe, kind of like less.
Anytime you're bringing any kind of plastics or anything into your grow, you have to be very concerned about bleaching and what kind of stuff it's going to do. But they do a really beautiful job here next. And they are building and working with polycultures and mulches and stuff in the bed. Indoor grows with LEDs use up, some close to 30 to 40% less electricity. So, and these are special lights made in Eugene, because if you want to stay in business with an indoor grow operation, your main issue is electricity and cost. And that's why if you're going to have a licensed producer or a microcultivator, excuse me, you really have to embrace the sun. If you can say, I grow indoors, that's fine, but if you don't have some kind of greenhouse or some kind of land where you're also producing for free underneath the sun, you're going to go out of business. It's just the way it is. $50 pounds are coming.
And when we're hearing about 15 to 8 cents a gram, and that's what's coming as far as, international importation of cannabis, it's a real thing. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Please, let's be smart about our growing. Less output, less money. Of course we can do it, because cannabis is a highly intelligent plant. And the more highly intelligent microbiology that we work with, then our body ingests it. And then we make smarter decisions. A lot of people, somebody had just said, I like to think as an individual. I think that's really funny when we have trillions amounts of totally intelligent beings inside of our body thinking and doing everything for us. So rather than thinking that we're separate from that microbiology, it's really important to know that it makes our next steps. So allying, and aligning with beneficial microbiology is going to help us make better decisions, not only in our lives, but also on our farms and also into our future.
Let's survive. Let's thrive.
Let's thrive.
So again, this is Green Life Productions in Nevada. Amazing person, 14 cycles indoors now, Steve Cantwell, and in Nevada is very scrutinous, very much like Canada. So they have microbial tests And so to do a living soil situation in Nevada is a big deal. And they say they can even tell with clipping their weed if their clippers wore masks or not.
And these are the same kind of standards that Canada is looking at right now. It's going to take a little bit of time for them to get more of a holistic intelligence to understand that plants grow out of soil, and we need to be able to allow that testing and that research to come forth.
And fungi breathe the opposite of plants. They're like human beings. They exhale carbon dioxide and breathe in oxygen. So go back just one really quickly, sorry, or to the mushrooms, yeah. So you can plant mushrooms in your beds. You can use oyster spawn, you can use reishi spawn, and then that organism you're producing two kinds of medicine out of one bed. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Who doesn't want to have like medicinal mushrooms? Everyone does. It's amazing. So you can buy, bag spawn and just put it in your soil. You can take bag spawn, take the bag off and surround it with hay or some kind of steamed straw or something, and then that's going to build it out sideways. So you could do that like in the corner of your bed or in the parts and let it like leach in and stuff. So that's just a good example.
And they're using polyculture because we feel that polyculture is incredibly important as far as bug control. It also helps underneath the soil as far as pathogens. It helps aerate the soil. To be smart about what kind of polyculture that you're growing in your beds. You want to grow for nutrient value. What type of cover crops are you using at what time? We really like to rotate our cover crops. So we rotate our cover crops knowing that clover is a wonderful nitrogen fixer. It's really great to have in your beds at the very beginning cycles, in the beginning of the nursery. Chickweed, it's another one. It grows a really thin mat of roots on top of the soil. It will help break down the top part of the soil. It brings a lot of nitrogen in from the air. These are all really great cover crops that you can utilize in the very beginning and vegetative times of your gardens. We really like to pull them up, lay them back down on the soil because we like layer gardening, and that's what works for us. And then we might move into fenugreek, and we might move into quinoa because those are really high in potassium and they have full spectrum nutrients in those type of cover crops. Buckwheat is another one that's really fantastic to use during the vegetative times. Then as you start to head into flower, poppy seeds is the highest amount of phosphorus that you can get in a plant form on the planet. Poppy seeds are wonderful. They're really easy to grow. That's a closed loop system that you can have within your own farm. You can grow poppy seeds and then you can take those big heads and you can sprinkle them over top of your garden beds and you can use them as a cover crop. And it helps to bring more phosphorus and different types of intelligence into your soil at that time.
So now we're going to move into animals and allying with animals and creating habitat. Part of the Pure certification is to create habitat. It's not just you're growing with organic nutrients, it's far from that. It's you're growing ganja, you're growing food, you're growing flowers, and you're creating habitat. Because that environment, that polyculture and that companion planting that you're doing is helping your environmental balance. And that environmental balance is going to give you predators, you're going to support other macro animals on the life, and we just want to see as much life on our farm.
As much as you can recreate nature, we know that nature is the highest intelligent form, so as much as we can be like her is, we feel like our best bet.
And that was a native plant species nursery there. So native plant species are really awesome for your bioregion. So get to know your bioregion, and as you're starting to build your farm or your area, you want to know about the local group, plants that are growing in the area.
And I think because we're talking about plants, I'm going to move over. We were talking about Hugo beds. And when you've got Hugo beds and you're building your soil up above, you really need to start thinking about swales and what's going on with your water and water retention. Water is a really big conversation down in California. It's a really big conversation here. Overwatering is a real thing, or underwatering, because not only is that affecting your plant, and you're really seeing your plant go through those changes of overwatering or underwatering, but it's a microbiology that's being seriously affected. So when you've got a dry out situation, your microbiology is going to go down deeper. and then it might not have as easily of a communication with your plant roots. So you want to be able to keep the structure of your soil as well as, you know, your water retention in there. So when you're building your swales, you want to be able to have different types of plants on the outside edge of your swales that you can also use in your biomass. Here in this area, cow parsnips, people see that as sort of a noxious weed. It's full of calcium, it's full of growth hormones. It's a tremendous plant to plant at the edges of all of your swales. Yarrow, you can use that in a lot of different foliar applications. It has like 5,000 years of history with farming. Sunflowers, a great source of potassium. Chicory, it grows on roadsides. It likes to break up soil that's really hard pan. You can see it on the side of roadsides because it's breaking down the soil and it's taking that hard asphalt and it's creating soil, because again, all nature wants to do is make soil. Elecampane, a really fast-growing plant that's wonderful to put on the edges of your swales. These all can be cut down and used as biomass in your soil building. Turkey rhubarb, it's another one that grows really rapidly, contains a tremendous amount of phosphorus. Willow, fireweed, bamboo, alfalfa, mullein can all be planted on the edges of your swales to help retain water and also build soil for your next year.
So animals are another way to build fertility on your land, and they're really, really fun to have around, and we're kind of joking, but it's really funny. I mean, the alpaca is kind of the new pit bull. I mean, there's a lot of alpacas out there in llamas now, and it's awesome, because they're really, really fun.
But in the 90s, when you went to any cannabis farm, there was lots of pit bulls, and now we go to those same cannabis farms, and we're finding the alpacas are outweighing the pit bulls.
And the pit bulls like the alpacas, so it's fun. But, next one. So, you know, the kind of poop that they have is phenomenal, and they poop in piles. It's easy, it's clean. I mean, you almost, like, yeah, it's like, it's food. You can see it, it's beautiful. And having a diverse mix of animals really helps you get different nutrients in your soil, and this is the way that you can balance out carbon that you're using in your soils, having animals. And this is an example where all the animals are feeding together, and then chickens come in and they scratch around all the bottom, and this is their whole entire fertility program for their farm. So they just are cleaning this out and building compost piles.
This is talking about rotation. Rotating pasture for animals is important, as well as rotating crops is important. So rotating your cover crops, if you don't have that ability to be able to rotate your cannabis, because we want to be able to maximize the space that we're given in our licensure, we really tell you that it's a good idea to at least rotate your cover crops.
And this is an example, back real quick, is chickens. So that's our chicken run. It's fully mulched. How many chicken runs have you seen with the hardest dirt known to mankind? You walk in there, there's like a couple bits of seeds on the ground, and the chickens are like sitting on a stick like, this sucks. So we're treating our chicken run as an incredible soil builder. So now we've covered the whole entire run with a really thick layer of hay. Then we'll spread seeds on that. The seeds will grow, the chickens dig in, and next thing you know, it's on a little bit of a slope. So by the end of a couple months, it's all kind of pushed down on the side. And it's amazing. You can just dig it out by the wheelbarrow full. And so chickens, there's a lot of things you can do with chickens. Next.
And with our chicken coop, we'll do lactic acid bacteria culture, and we'll do a really nice spray in there, and then a week later we'll dig it all out, and we'll use it as top dressing on top of our earliest plants in our earliest greenhouses. We rotate our greenhouses so that they're not all finished at the same time, because we have such a small amount of people working on our farm.
Alpacas.
I see, here's the alpacas. and they do love cannabis, so they may be going
towards
hand in
the
hand.
fall, they let the alpacas go in with the herb, and they'll just eat like the sun leaves. They don't touch the buds.
Yeah, so people are starting to recognize that they could be their
So it's
big
kind of a
mover.
pre-alpaca trend going on. It's kind of sweet, you know.
They did better than the pit bulls did with that.
That's funny. Goats in Jamaica, you know, goats are a really big thing, and they really. This is in British Columbia, but goats in Jamaica's the Rasta Ganja Island, and they really love the oils that are in the goat poops. So goat poops and sheep and different animals that have oils in it really are really good to transfer into resin on the plants.
And when you read about a lot of the 1700 and 1800 soil building for lavender farms in France or other resinous terpene-rich food production or perfume production, they're using sheep and goat manure because it does help bring up the oils and the residues in the terpene production.
And they use the sheep wool as mulch in some places. So wool, if you're not using it or you don't have a place to put it, it works amazing in the garden. You wouldn't think that a bunch of hair piled on the garden would be good, but it's amazing. So we're going to work in towards polyculture and showing why plants working together. Here's our wonderful friend Craig. And this is a huge daikon radish that's growing on the edge of this pond. And, Alpenglow and what Craig has done on his property in the last year is really phenomenal. He was growing a similar style to what Southern Humboldt did for a long time. There was some pots involved in greenhouses and stuff. And a couple years ago we were there and we were talking about what it could look like when the property transformed, and he really dove in, and totally transformed his property. No more pots, everything in the ground, and you'll be able to hear from Craig tonight.
Yeah, Craig is a phenomenal example of how quickly a farm can turn over to regenerative practices in a really short period of time with not a whole lot of money, but a lot of effort and energy. And his whole family pitches in to create that. That daikon radish was also being used as a swale to be able to help, with erosion control.
So here we're starting our seeds, and plants and our broccolis and stuff on the side. Although brassicas are not the best cover crop because brassicas are antagonistic to mycorrhizal fungi. So if you really want to have your beds growing mycorrhizal fungi before your plants go in so that the mycorrhizal fungi is available to the plant roots, it makes a lot of sense to use other things like Sudanese sorghum grass. You can write that down as a really amazing mycorrhizal fungi host. It can host up to 500 different species of mycorrhizal fungi. Although they say the only mycorrhizal fungi that bonds with cannabis roots is the Glomus intradices, I'm not so sure about that because I don't think that mushrooms have rules.
Have you heard of any instances where mycorrhizal colonized plants next to brassica and actinobacteria dominate plants? Have you ever heard of the mycorrhizal colonized plants starting to use the brassica as a food resource and mine the brassica root system basically for?
Intuitively, I would not think that they would interact with the brassica root. They might eat the brassica root if it was dying or something like that, but I think they would just exist separately. And so, do you have something to say?
There are scientific papers that have been written about what you're talking about, where you can get the mycorrhizal fungi colonizing the root systems of the brassica, sucking the nutrients out of the brassica into the crop plant that you want. So
beautiful.
It can happen.
Yeah, again, there's not that many rules that I think we can put towards, especially fungi.
And I think that we need to remember that we are growing adaptogenic plants and fungi is adaptogenic. So when we try to outsmart it, it's going to outsmart us every
Did you have
time.
another question?
I just wondered if you guys have noticed that correlation in beds that are mycorrhizal fungi with plants that are more early successional bacterial
We really, yeah, we haven't necessarily taken on that research or observational look at it because I think that we really use what works. So a lot of the polyculture that we'll use in our gardens is nettle. Nettle is a huge polyculture because it grows so well next to cannabis. And it seems to me like intuitively, I feel like I have an understanding that the roots of cannabis absolutely communicate freely and openly. They speak the same language. So whenever we find nettles and nettle patches, this is something that you can grow on your farm really easily. It's a biomass accumulator. This particular patch this picture is taken in late fall, and this has already been cut down 6 times. I think we had 6 different successions of nettles. Nettles contains a lot of iron, calcium, magnesium, copper, cobalt. It is a full spectrum nutrient. It is a wonderful thing to have on your property because not only can you put it in an easy tea, but it builds soil. And when you look at the root structure underneath even a 1-year nettle bed, the soil turns black immediately. Like, it's so rich. It makes everything bioavailable underneath it. So we really ally with nettle and grow it side by side.
And the roots are really good as a male testosterone mimicker, really good for male T and later in life, like for us. And the nettles are also not to be feared. And if you get stung by the nettle, it's good. And we purposely sting ourselves with the nettle. If I ever have sore wrists or sore arms or knees or neck or something, I'll just hit the nettle on my body.
It creates a natural
like,
histamine reaction
it's
within
kind of
the
like
body.
a crazy thing, kind of. You're just like, oh, what am I doing? You know, and then you get like this, you get like rashes and everything, and it's just an incredible amount of stimulation to your body, and it's really useful.
Comfrey. This is a picture of a comfrey plant, one first-year comfrey plant. It grows like crazy. A lot of people see it as a noxious weed, but if you're seeing your weeds as biomass and you're using it in all of your soil, then how is anything on your property a noxious weed? We also want to talk about noxious weeds here for 1 second. We have a lot of different plants that are being brought in and being spread by humanity. And we can consider them noxious weeds, and we can say, oh, you know, that plant isn't indigenous to this zone and area. It's something that I want to pull out. Well, we really embrace those plants.
And this comfrey is growing on ganja stalks. So that's the comfrey eating the herb, and then us using the comfrey to grow the herb. And that's just cool. I mean, I love that. Next one. The comfrey roots are so amazing also for, you know, healing wounds and people, you know, using it for your own medicine. So the comfrey's got amazing healer, and the leaves are really thick and they're really amazing for teas. Question?
Since you guys are in BC, do you guys deal with a lot of Japanese knotweed? Do you guys have that up in your area in BC? Do you use that for anything in the garden?
As long as it's not seeding. You know, so that's kind of the thing about noxious weeds. It's a gift until it's a problem, you know. So that's part of it, being on your land and knowing what's going on around and just chopping those weeds down, you know, is really, really useful. So the growth hormone of its survival abilities and its pioneer abilities is what we want. But the ability to survive with the seeds is something you have to be very careful with. Maybe you ferment the seeds. You know what I mean? And then you get the phosphorus out of the seeds, and that's a good thing. Next one. So this is chickweed, and chickweed is something that's probably just going to grow anyway on your property. You can plant it.
If you're lucky.
You can plant it, but it's really good in salads. It melts in water immediately, and it's extremely useful. Next one. The beloved horsetail.
One thing I wanted to say about chickweed, just to back it up really quick, sorry, I'm coughing fit, is that chickweed grows really rapidly. It's a wonderful covering for the soil. And it grows a really thin mat. And if you pull up chickweed soil, that thin mat of roots is also loaded with fungi. So it can be turned over several times just right into the soil throughout the time. Lots of calcium in this, tremendous amounts of growth hormones. Chickweed's a good one.
And
it's
also,
delicious.
with the comfrey, I want to say, it's important to cut it down. If it grows up too much, it'll start getting powdery mildews and different like environmental problems. And that's really the case for all cover crops and all, you know, things. And it has been mentioned here that, you know, it's good to keep things lower and in more of a vigorous state, because if you chop down something and then it starts growing, it's not going to have any diseases on it. It's very clean, it's very filled.
This is a picture of horsetail. It's definitely something that you want to have around, or have a secret patch that you know where to go and get it. Again, don't pick it off of the roadsides. It's a it's a remediator, so it will suck up toxins. Full of silica. This can be used as a foliar spray. It can be used chopped up and put directly into your soil building as well.
A lot of the soils that we use in our area have like ancient horsetail in them, and a lot of people fear the horsetail. Oh, I don't want the horsetail, but it's a million-year-old. Like, it's just an amazing thing, and the roots almost look plastic, which is super weird. There you get a bunch of roots, and some people know, oh, I have plastic in there, but it's just the roots of the horsetail. Yeah.
It's really suppressed very easily by getting enough fungal dominance in your soil, so it's really easy to control.
Nice. Yeah. So
Yeah, and that's again a really good example of people seeing something as a noxious weed, and you're just like, when you have perfect balance, when you've got good balance in your soil, then you also have good balance above your soil. You know, as is below is as is above. Here's a picture of bracken fern. Ferns are wonderful. They're really great. This has lots of material in the 1700s of people collecting bracken fern and using it for its phosphorus content. We really like to make soil out of bracken fern because it's available, it's there, and it's not something that your animals will usually eat. They see it as an immediate toxin, but if you pile it up and you put it into your soil, it makes really beautiful soil. So bracken fern is something that we find here, really.
And all ferns, and we're not saying go take all the ferns out. You know, wild crafting it's a craft. You have to be respectful.
I don't think that we need to touch on leaves again. We had talked about that. Leaves have a whole lot of minerals in it. So now we're going to enter into integrated pest and fungal management. And we don't just say integrated pest management, we use the term fungal management too, because we're dealing with a lot of different pathogens on the outside of our plant. You know, people commonly use the term powdery mildew or downy mildew. We just like to use the term leaf mildew. It makes more sense because we really don't necessarily have the identification of all that different fungi.
It's a yeast infection.
Yeah. If you look at it as a yeast infection, it makes a lot more sense. So this is a picture of aphids. We could have 3-hour-long conversation about the aphids. This is called the new and latest bong aphid, BHANG. It's not your normal aphid. If you see this on your plants, you have to address it immediately. We studied this pathogen for about 8 weeks, and we really couldn't find anything else that it liked to eat other than fireweed. So fireweed in cannabis was the only thing that this particular pathogen liked to eat. Aphids usually will have about 10 babies in 1 week where they actually clone themselves. We were noticing that these were cloning themselves 15 within 3 days. It's incredibly rapid. Just as soon as you think that maybe you've got your handle on it, it's incredibly difficult. And an aphid infestation, you know, traditionally could come from, you know, utilizing too much nitrogen in your soil, or your plants are just really rich. But the odd thing about this particular bong aphid is, why was it attacking the most healthy plants? So there's a little bit of a twist in here, and we don't understand necessarily why. So I really encourage you all that if you see this predator or this pathogen in your own garden or in other people's gardens, take time. We need to learn more about this. This is something that's new in here, and we were testing the Brix levels on certain plants within gardens, and you would say, wow, you know, this one has been really attacked. Well, oddly enough, it was the one with the highest Brix level that it was attacking. So it sort of puts it all on its head as to what we understand the pathogen relationship, you know, in gardens. So the only thing that we found that can 100% rid this is heat treatment. And yeah.
Sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt. We had a similar, is this the same thing as the hop aphid?
Similar.
Yeah, if you've seen it on your cannabis, it's the same aphid.
Okay, well, we had a similar issue with it in our first couple cycles of freshwater. We worked closely with natural enemies and biological controls, and you were absolutely correct. They are a tough aphid to get rid of. And we found that they had a really synchronistic relationship with ants. And
right.
So we noticed we had a large influx of ants that were protecting them.
They colonize them for their honeydew.
Exactly, right, they were protecting, they worked together. So we worked with natural enemies and we had really good results with a very specific ladybug from France.
Really?
Yeah, it was a trick. So if anybody wants to talk with me or reach out to natural enemies if they're having issues with these guys, we were able to eradicate them in one cycle. I tried to deal with them in the first cycle myself. It was like, I need help. Natural enemies helped.
Sounds awesome.
We do
And
work
that's
with natural
important
enemies
to
as well.
share like that
Yeah,
so that we can all,
thank you.
that's why we're creating sharing environments.
And we do work with natural enemies as well, but I can tell you that I did a lot of tests and research. I made all different types of oils. I did garlic oil, I did oregano oil, I did rosemary oil, just to test and research and really look at them and find out, is it slowing down their colonization? Is it eradicating it? What happens to their young? We realized that heat treatment really is incredibly successful. So incredibly successful that you don't have to spray anything on your plants and it costs nothing to necessarily do it. So for indoor gardeners, what we suggest that you use is something that they're using for eradication of bed bugs. So it's no longer that if you have bed bugs in a hotel room or something that they go in with a lot of toxic sprays, because they have found that that doesn't actually work because it builds up a tolerance to those toxic sprays. These aphids are no different. They will build up a tolerance within 3 days to anything you're spraying on it. So I noticed that the first day I would spray a garlic oil on it and they didn't like it. By the third day they were eating it up like it was an awesome, superfood smoothie for them to just continue colonizing. 120 degrees, there's these units that you can plug in that is used for bed bugs for 1 hour. 120 degrees sounds like it's hot, but cannabis plants love that kind of heat. They have absolutely no problem dealing with that heat, and it really helps eradicate any of the pathogens on your plants that have a thin exoskeleton. 120 degrees will not only really mess with their there's a bacteria inside of the aphid that if it's heated up, that it makes it sterile.
And the aphids birth pregnant babies. Their babies are pregnant. Which is like good if you can mess with their cycle.
Yeah, so 1 hour, 120 degrees, and make sure that your soil is really damp and well fed. Because it's no different than a sauna. If you're going into a sauna, you bring your water with you, you bring your towel with you, you bring everything that you need with you. We'll make sure that you're setting your plants up for that and your soil up for that as well.
And we just did a beneficial pest panel at Emerald Cup, and the man from Recon Vita down in Ventura was talking about doing some tests with an on-demand hot water heater and spraying the plants with an on-demand hot water heater.
And we don't have enough information about that, but he's doing some great work on it. So here's a picture of broad mite eggs. Those are not resin glands. I definitely,
Big, right, Mike?
we have yet,
Clothing steamer.
Right. That could be.
Boils water and it lyses the enzymes in the stomach.
yeah,
Is what they're playing with the idea of.
nice. Well, this is where we could yet again have another 3-hour-long conversation on broad mites. We took a
Suzanne's
tremendous
gonna be
amount of
here
time.
later talking about pests
Yeah.
and stuff too.
So we just wanted everyone to get to understand what a broad mite egg looks like. If you don't have a scope in your garden, that's the number one thing that you need. We need good soil, and next thing we need good scopes. So if you don't have one, go out and get one, because we have yet to go into a garden in all of Canada that is not infested with broad mites. Not yet. I haven't been in a garden because everybody thinks that it's a nutrient deficiency, and it's a this deficiency, and it's a that deficiency. And if any gardeners are in here saying, like 7 years ago, I used to be a great grower, and now it's just so darn hard. Well, if you are having that kind of dialogue within your head, you have broad mites.
So, it's starting to get into using mints and different kinds of floral herbs and stuff on our property to create foliar sprays with. And next one. And so this is holy basil and tulsi, and it's incredibly aromatic. It's really, really beautiful. It's fun to have around. The bees love it, and it makes a really, really good foliar spray. for pest management. Next. That's not a very good picture, but that's bee balm and bergamot, and it's really, really good for bees. It's really, really tasty. It attracts animals to the garden that are gonna eat and do other, beneficial operations.
And we're not big foliar sprayers, foliar spray is a really wonderful way for the plant to gain nutrients and also gain a stronger cyanobacteria colony on the outside of its leaf structure. So if you can use plants to foliar at the beginning stages to bring more nutrients and a stronger structure to your plants, it's nice. Here's calendula. Calendula is great because it contains a lot of omega oils in it, which is really great for the soil and your microbiology. Pine tree tips. These come out in the springtime, and it just so happens that we've got all of our little baby plants that are just all starting to come up. We'll make an overnight tea brew with this and just do a nice spray of tea. And we really are a big believer in, if we're going to do any kind of foliar, we'll do it just like an overnight tea, as if we were steeping tea for ourselves. Because it makes it nice and clean. It's sweet roses, wild roses, they're great to have around as well. Lots of nutrients, borage, a tremendous pollinator. Whenever you've got borage in polyculture with your cannabis, you're going to be seeing a whole lot of pollinators. And I wanted to get back to talking about really quickly, when we went on our love tour, there was a lot of problems with this aphid, this long aphid down in southern Oregon. And the one farm that didn't have one aphid on it at all was the one that went super hardcore on polyculture and had a whole lot of flowering plants intermixed in there. A parasitic wasp can eat 3 times its weight in aphids in a day. So really inviting in those wasps, those pollinators. And if you see wasps like nests or anything in the corner of your greenhouses, leave them there, welcome them. We want them to.
Don't buy yellow jacket traps. I mean, yellow jackets, it sucks to get stung by a bee, but when we're walking in and out of our greenhouse now, I mean, it's a real thing. You can just say, all right, bees, don't sting me. Everything's cool. I'm just gonna be walking in here. If I have to move the plastic or a little bit, like literally I'll have a giant nest underneath this plastic that I'm moving up, but if I just pull it out a little bit and roll it up and stick it up, and they don't touch me. And it's beautiful, yeah. And then they're gonna go onto the plants and eat aphids.
And we're seeing more and more, I'm sure a lot of you all are thinking this in your mind right now, is, oh, those damn wasps. We didn't see so many wasps when we were kids, and why are we having so many more wasps now? The reason why we're having more wasps now is because we're having more pathogens. They are trying to create balance. When we see an overproduction of a certain species or an insect, they're trying to create balance within our own gardens and our own world. So really pay attention. We always say that whenever you bring anything onto your garden or you do anything to your garden, it's a lot like a ripple, and maybe that one action is actually the stone that's on the, that goes onto the water. It's not the first ripple that you look at and what happens to your garden by that by that one stone. It's the 48th ripple. Look at all of the effects that it's gonna have on your farm all the way through. The idea of allopathic farming is no longer relevant. It is not going to bring us into the future. We need to be having more holistic thoughts. And the holistic thought will help us get the ideology of that one stone all the way out to the end.
Valerian.
This is valerian. It's great to grow around. It's a wonderful pollinator. It has a whole lot of tradition in biodynamics as far as foliar spray goes. It really brings a lot of cyanobacteria that's beneficial to your leaf structure. It just creates a healthy, plant.
So this is the yak cone, and the yak cone is an amazing plant, especially for natural farmers who want to make ferments, because part of the thing that we think, so we really love natural farming because it connects you to the nature, but when you have to start buying sugar to make an extract, we start to feel like I don't see that as actually a sustainable thought, you know, so I want to try and do it on my land. How do you do that? Yak home. Go to the next one, Scott.
And I just, you know, something that we are always thinking about because of my background in naturopathic medicine, and I'm also a midwife, and I'm always bringing it back to the body. I'm always bringing the soil back to the body, you know. I don't eat a lot of sugar because it creates a lot of overproduction of yeast within my body, and I believe that if we start bringing a lot of sugars onto our farms, it's going to also do the same thing, of course, in good balance, and Chris was, you know, describing that, but we have to be real careful on what we're bringing into our farms because you don't want to disrupt that intelligent microbiome that you've already created.
So learn botany and learn world ethnobotany. It's important. Yakon is one of the lost foods of the Incas. So it's from the South America. It's super watery tuber. It's part of the Helianthus family. It's like the sunflower. Grows really tall. The leaves are really, really good as a biomass as well. And you can shred the tubers and press the tubers and get all this water. You can juice the tubers and get a huge amount of water. And then you boil the water down and it makes molasses. It tastes exactly like molasses.
Which is a wonderful closed loop
from the
sweetener.
Yakon, and it builds the soil and aerates the soil. And that's what it looks like on the inside. There's probably 4 or 5 different varieties that we're growing, and this is a red one, and some of them can grow up to 1 kilogram and just be a huge.
And it's not the tuber that reproduces itself, it's the actual crown. It's part of the Helianthus family, not part of the nightshade family or potato family. So, going on. This one, the skunk cabbage. Tremendous amount of oxalic acid. Anywhere you've got really nice, good skunk cabbage, you want to make sure that it's you know, a good source. It has a wonderful terpene. I don't know if any of you all can relate, but whenever the skunk cabbage is coming up, it truly smells like a ganja grow. So we always think, wow, we could sort of do like being terpenes, but also putting this plant into your soil is putting oxalic acid into your soil, that your microbiology knows exactly what to do to create an available calcium source for your plants.
And when we get the skunk weed, we get a very small bag of the dirt that's growing in the skunk weed, and then we use that and liquefy that and spray that on the land. That's
because what else would know how to break down that skunk cabbage under the better than the dirt itself that it's growing out of. So whenever we're looking to do any kind of fermentations of plants, we always grab a little tiny handful of the dirt because usually that dirt might have the intelligence of how to break it down because that's what it does in nature, is it's constantly breaking it down.
And we like to use the skunk cabbage to ferment on the skunk weed.
And we're gonna
like
have to
diamond skunk weed.
We're gonna have to roll through these pretty quickly. Aloe, it's great to have in your gardens. If you all aren't growing aloe side by side with your cannabis, I highly suggest to use it. It's just really nice. It's a great growth hormone. It's wonderful to use in cloning. It's great to use in any of your small seedlings.
We'd like to say to spray foliar spray your aloe with earth salts or some kind of dead sea salt because it adds minerals to the aloe, and then the aloe becomes extremely useful. And the Essene people live to 120 years old is one of their main practices.
This is turkey rhubarb. I had talked about turkey rhubarb, just a way for you to look at it.
This is oca, and it's another lost food of the Incas, and it's like a ground cover, and it makes really amazing little tubers.
Sumac, wonderful vitamin C source. Cannabis roots, we've never created any type of a cannabis extract or any medicine. We use lipid extraction to do all of our caps and all of our CBD making, and we put the cannabis roots in there, and the only reason why we do that is I'm an herbalist and I put all of the roots into all of the different tinctures. And we really like to look at a full season, so if I'm going to be making a tincture or any type of medicine, I'm going to be getting some from the beginning of the season in the spring all the way to the very end so that you get all different parts of that plant's intelligence into your tincture and your medicine.
So this is our Wally Peony. It's 40 by 70. It's in the ground, 10 feet on the back wall, 6 feet on the front wall. And it's an amazing area to grow herb in. It's just
and once we built a Wally Peony, we'll never go back. You know, underground greenhouse, it just keeps a wonderful temperature, good humidity, and it's again using the intelligence of what the earth has taught us. You know, why are we building above ground when there can be such And you don't have the differentiation between your night and day temperatures or your humidity temperatures at all.
Getting into teas, using flow forms and structuring your water can be really useful. We're making lactic acid bacteria because it's really the one that we really love. We don't make a lot of the other extracts. We really just focus on our soils and then using lactic acid bacteria to ferment our weeds. That's our main thing on our property, and we really love it. Keep going. So the bird's nest tea, keep going. Put that in the thing, go. And then you get this purple non-sulfur, super rich bacteria coming out of it. These are just different examples of what we're fermenting on the property. When we have 27 swallow birdhouses on the property, so we pull them out in the winter.
And we make ferments, not very often. We'll only do maybe, 4 ferments during the whole entire season because that's really all the nutrients that it needs. We don't want to over-nutrify our soils by any means. So when we're doing ferments, it's basically just a nice tea for the plants and to help spark the microbiology in the soil. Our tea brews do not smell. Our tea brews, we usually let them ferment for 7 days. And when they start having some, bubbling action of some fermentation, you can start seeing it coming up. Then we aerate it hardcore for 48 hours. And then we taste it. Yep, and then that's the way that we do it. I don't have a pH, meter. I have one. It might be in the house, or I've got to go find it, or oh God, what drawer was it in? This is yet another. We have a tongue, and it can tell you exactly the pH. That tea should taste totally inert. Don't be afraid if you're putting all wonderful, good nutrients into your teas. Taste it. It doesn't mean that you have to drink a whole thing of it, but it really is a good rate. And then you can say, oh, that actually tastes maybe a little bit different than my last one. And then you start understanding through observational experience what tea is really good and what one you definitely don't want to put on your plants and needs more aeration or a little bit more work.
This is burdock, and it's an invasive species in our area, and the government pays people to eradicate it, but they just throw it over the edge. So we're getting truckloads of burdock, chopping it up and putting it in our teas. And burdock's filled with potassium and phosphorus, so it's a beautiful thing. Keep going.
We're just gonna have to
Chopping flowers, keep going. This is the beauty of comfrey. You can see the plant blood and the chlorophyll and everything in it, and you can leach that into teas. Is incredible. Ganja, comfrey, flowers, paddles, thistle, keep going.
Thistle is another one that's wonderful. It's great nutrient.
It just melts within 1 week, all the weeds. It's like the easiest thing in the world.
And you can see the silica coming right up onto the top. That's all plant silicates that are just coming, being separated out. That's just going drenched directly into your soil.
Catch fish, turn them into teas. Animals. We like deer. We live in the forest. We have a forest garden. We collect the deer poop and put it in the.
And this is we sort of wanted to go back, Sky. It's just bust the myth that cannabis needs to be grown by itself in a monoculture. We can do away with that idea. We can look at big ag and we can learn from it that we don't want to do it. So I think that bringing in more polyculture and observation and really playing with your gardens, recognizing that we really can bust the big myth, of big ag and big pharma, and grow really big, large, productive plants with almost nothing. Last year or several years ago, we did a cost to try to find out how much each plant cost. We grow about, maybe around between 2 to 5 pound plants, and each one of those plants cost us $16, and that was just from predators. So it can be done. So lower your costs, and you're lowering the stress that you're going to have on what kind of output that you need to have. Right now, we're in a really crazy time in this industry. And most importantly, small farmers need to have a place in this industry in the future. Because small farmers are the ones that hold the genetics. Small farmers are the ones that hold the culture of cannabis. And it's really important that you all move forward and have a tremendous amount of success. And success is going to come from low input and maximum output.
So we just want to remind you to ally with your soils, ally with your family, ask questions, trust nature. It does amazing things. We've never used a commercial amendment on our land ever, and we grow amazing things, and we're really, really proud of it. And it's amazing to see other people do it. So it's really empowering, and we would be open to answering any questions if someone had any. And I'd also like to say that we are having a peer certified panel tonight at 7 o'clock with some of our other people that we're working with, so you can ask questions on the broad. There's going to be some indoors, some outdoors, and different regions and everything. So you had a question back here?
So I'm thinking about all the indoor grows and the need to connect the plants to the earth. Maybe some of those indoor facilities were connected to the earth or not. But has anybody been going with, ground wires from those
I
grows?
did it for 5 years for indoor, the fence, grounded it for electric, grounding.
Yes, we've seen it.
In the soil, so.
Then you got the soil. So if you're stuck inside,
I have a friend who made a whole Flower of Life copper grid in the slab, and then put the plants on top of it. We even know people that have chipped out the concrete slab and then built their beds and connected their earth through the slab, and that's sweet. There's also like Wade Laughter, who created the Harlequin. He was using pots and he was using grounding, so he was using the copper wire going from the grounding into the plants. And the CBD came out of nowhere. I'm not saying it created it, but it created it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, they were in the slab. It was connected to the slab. Thank you for saying that. Copper is very antagonistic towards organisms.
Yeah, you want to be careful with any kind of copper. Yeah.
I wanted to get you guys input on your ruminant animals. Like we were looking for a split hoof variety.
Right.
For very land management purposes. That's what you guys primarily use.
I think it's a really good one. I think that horses and it really kind of depends on your family a little bit, because I think that they're all good. But I think the ruminants have the best type of hoop that you can use easily and fast. When you start getting into the horse, you have just the one stomach and it doesn't break down as much. And the cows, it's better, but you still really kind of want to break it down.
Like the hoof itself being split and actually like compacting the ground that they're walking on.
Oh, they're way lighter on the earth.
The split hoof is actually kind of like
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're totally right that animals can have a really adverse effect on the land.
And it can be used so quickly, like Josh said, without a lot of heat. You can use that manure almost immediately if you're using it in the right amounts. And we really like that. What kind of things can be used quickly. Yeah.
I live west of Spokane. My ground is like rock. I mean, it's like really rocky. I want to do a greenhouse this spring, and I want to do the raised beds. But we have a huge mole, vole, and gopher population on my property. I mean, it's massive. So I was thinking of doing either perforated steel under it, or would you recommend building a gravel bed under it to stop the gophers and the moles? What would you do?
Well, we've suggested to people before to use cages to protect the roots. So you can actually get like chicken wire that's really thin, or smaller holes, and you can put it as a liner around sort of
A
your
quarter-inch
raised
wire
bed.
mesh or
Yeah,
something.
quarter-inch wire mesh.
Carpenter's wire.
We've really seen that do the best.
No, that's mostly galvanized. The galvanizing is not going to cause a leaching issue.
You definitely want to get it ungalvanized, for sure.
No, like galvanized would be good because it's gonna rot. It'll just rust if it doesn't.
Yeah, galvanized rust, right?
So you kind of have to have it. You could put rocks on top of the wire mesh, and then that would give you a barrier between your roots and the wire, and that's a good idea.
So perforated steel would also work then. It'd be more expensive, but
Be a lot more
you could get perforated steel, put that down, and then build your bed on top of that. That would stop the gophers from coming up.
As long as you've got aeration that's going down, to connect your bed to everything, you've got enough
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
aeration.
you would.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Go
think
with
that would work.
I could go with a 1/4 inch hole perforated.
Yeah.
I do have an experience with a lot of gophers as well and bulls, and I found that if you're not in a rush, you can get like an electric fence and get pigs and kind of do it. If you have animals, they will be.
You can do a pig run around your greenhouse.
Question, go ahead.
For light deprivation, you mentioned that you only keep the sides of greenhouses closed in the spring. So for light deprivation, like with some sort of a cover, is that enough to do to actually deprive them of light to initiate flower and
No.
substantiate flower?
No, we
Has to be
cover the
totally
whole,
closed.
we cover the whole greenhouse in blackout.
So that part is when it's closed, but we'll open it up again at midnight sometimes, so it can be totally open, you know, and then come back at 4 or 5 a.m., which is like a level of crazy to that.
We're
But if
crazy
you
though.
split it up, it's not so bad. One person stays up late, the other one wakes up early.
Yeah, so as least suffocation as you can possibly have, especially you want easy airflow, and that's why we lift our sides on our greenhouses.
We just don't want any kind of condensation or any type of environmental
Condensation
breathing.
equals pathogens.
Yeah, what I've been doing is I will, I don't even get up early in the morning, I take it off after it's dark.
Yep, that's what we do
Don't
too.
get up in the morning at all, and you just basically force disposal earlier in the afternoon.
It does, and then you just have to be concerned about direct sun in the afternoon. And you know, there's breathable walls, and there's different kinds of, you know, blackout ventilation that you can do in the end walls, and that's the idea.
And I just wanted to say something, you know, indoor growing has been the norm, like I had said before, but I can really encourage you all to try greenhouse growing. It grows phenomenal product, it grows a whole lot of it, and when you do comparison ratios of yields compared to money, there is absolutely no comparison. If you want to stay in business, it's not like how successful that you're going to be next year, it's are you going to be in business in 5 years from now. So if we start building our gardens and our beds with that terminology inside of our minds of that we need to be in business in 5 years, and if we can spend 5 years working on our soil the whole time, then we've been successful.
I think, well, I just have a quick question. This year, you said something about international importation of cannabis. Are you talking about like LP programs in Colombia and things like that?
Yeah.
Oh, the future. Yep.
How
Yeah.
long do you think that's going to be until that's a reality?
Today.
Well, I think there are already shipping pallets.
It's already happening.
There's not like Colombian gold clones available yet, but I'm pretty sure soon there will be from Colombia.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I do agree with it, but like I'm just the amount of like effort it's going to take to grow 100 pounds on your property. I mean, you have a whole enclosed system. You're not just growing cannabis. I fully understand the concept here, but the amount of effort it takes to grow 100 pounds of cannabis, and if you're telling me you're selling that for even $100 a pound, where's any of our money going to come from?
It's in the finished product. And right now, as small growers, finished product meaning actual products, your brand on there. Right now, we're not allowed to do that. Of course, it's going to be an archaic thing of the past. It won't make any sense. So this is the time to really get your branding down, get your story, have a product, have a finished product that you do, because this raw material, yes, it is an agricultural product, especially now CBD. The US came in, they passed the Farm Bill, everything changes now. So we really need to be incredibly efficient on our farms and in our grow spaces so that we're not worried about what our output is. Yeah.
How do you think in terms of micro-cultivation, and strict testing that Canada is putting on, you know, production, the microbial micronutrients that go into that when you go to pass testing?
Well, I mean,
We're hoping that those
laws need to go
changed.
away. They need to be changed. They're totally inefficient and they're uneducated and they're stupid because they are not differentiating the DNA of the different spores on there, the different bacteria on there. Once we start having, you know, more educated test results, or, you know, as we move into the future so that we can actually find out what those pathogens are, that makes sense. But Washington did away with that, California did away with that, Oregon did away with that because they do have value in small farmers down in the States, and hopefully that's what's going to be happening up here in Canada. So, as we were talking about yesterday, right now, Health Canada is making a lot of decisions and moving forward. Everybody here needs to write Health Canada about microbial tests and how ridiculous they are, because they really are only encouraging these large indoor grows that really are not producing good medicine at all. In fact, it's poisoning us. So we talk a lot about, how cannabis is good for us, but we don't talk about what good cannabis is. And that needs to be more of the conversation and moving forward.
It is possible to pass the tests, the microbial tests as they stand, and the outdoors. It's really hard though. It's really hard. You have to be extremely mindful about the dirt, the dust, and all that stuff.
And you can pass it, and anybody who needs to get in touch with us to look further into that, we can give you lots of really good recipes and different things and different times to spray, and that will help you out and make sure that you pass those microbials.
Are you guys aware of any Canadian LP that's tried to make a submission to use bacterial DNA testing rather than plating in their QA process?
No.
No, but we're working
We're
with
working on it.
Samir Punja, the professor at Simon Fraser, and where that goes, we're not sure, but we're going to try and put some effort into that.
We're working on putting together a template that can be taken across the boards for regenerative cannabis farming, because there is nothing really out there. So there needs to be more education on cannabis and the growth of it, and everybody can be a part of it. This is something that we need to write into the future, because we're making it up as we go right now. This cannabis industry is so brand new. We have the ability to sway it in a direction that we feel is healthy and viable.
I was going to say just really quickly is that with products, and we were kind of joking around about it a few years ago when people started calling flowers pre-run. We're like, that's not funny, but it's kind of a thing. I mean, strains are less and less of a thing almost now. It's almost like we are looking at the chemical makeup of the plant, and that's more important to us right now almost than the actual strain name. So that's where the products come in. The products are more looking at the cannabinoid count than the actual flower.
Yeah, and we've been...
Sorry, the way that you're growing, and this style of growing, all the phenotypical expression and being able to just put a brand behind that, I mean, it's going to separate you from
definitely. And it's
Absolutely.
cheaper, and it's just everything that you want. Yeah.
When you're trying to reduce that plate count of the total bacteria, treat your plant material with an infusion of protozoa.
Okay.
And they just wipe out that bacterial population. You get almost nothing on those plate counts.
Which you could maybe make a hay tea or a wash, a hay wash.
Use a microscope to actually check to make sure that you've got massive numbers of the flagellates and the amoeba in that infusion, and spray it on just like you do any of the sprays, and it takes that bacterial number right down.
That's
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, in the back. Do we still have time for more questions? Okay.
I remember back to your speaking at the Cannabis Expo, and one thing that you had made mention to aside from making sure you have fire, making sure that your ethics and production are good for people in North America, you also mentioned making sure you light that when you're down towards September. And I've been looking into that a little bit more, and based on our production, we actually pulled those plants out in September, and we found that, and I don't know why, but after talking to Dr. Punja, the potential of actually UV radiation eliminating a lot of fungal bacterial counts around that time of year versus when you let it go a little bit longer and then you're stricken with the humidity and intense changes in heat. Is that why you suggest for people to light that in the coming done?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Creates mold and
Yeah, and you've worked for 8 months, basically from seed all the way to this point, and a successful crop is absolutely imperative. So really making sure that you're taking down before those night and day temperatures are really diverse. So
and like Steve said with the vapor pressure deficit, that there's when you start getting into extreme temperatures, it just throws the plant off and stuff. So you kind of want to keep it in that sweet spot.
And in conversation with a lot of the vineyards and orchards, we were actually after that, we were able to talk to them and see when they see a proliferation of those issues, and based on things that we know are maybe subject, like different strains that are subject to those mold problems, we were able to just take that down before environmental factors became even
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And you're
just
lucky you're in the
observation.
center of BC, right?
Yeah.
So you have a better climate for that. So you might be able to get a little bit more out of it, make it to the full moon in September. Would be sweet, you know. So yeah, that's a good point. And
You have a question here.
And last on the politics thing, is it Pure or somebody else that's unifying a message for us to speak? Because, we're all a little distracted at times. Like, where is that, bulleted list that you gotta read off to the politicians? Is that together yet, or should we look towards Pure for guidance on action alerts?
Yes,
we're
definitely.
working on that right now.
We're working on it. So right now what we're doing is we're forming an international collective. We're not messing around. We are absolutely interested in finding like-minded people who are a part of this cannabis industry that need to join in, strengthen numbers, strengthen diversity, strengthen polyculture, strengthen polydiversity. All of that is what's going to help us, move forward in the industry. So we are in the midst of creating a massive template that can be taken to legislatures, that can change laws to say, all cannabis growing isn't harming our waterways, all cannabis growing isn't doing what you all think that it is. This is another way. And rather than, we feel like we've been really caught up in sort of as a culture, the cannabis culture and the cannabis industry, and talking about the way that it's going, like, oh, corporate cannabis, and oh God, oh. Well, let's create something else. Let's just create something. Thank you all so much.
And look into CBG and CBC and CBDV and all the other cannabinoids. It's a really important thing right now for us to ally with labs and get lab tests. And think about hemp.
Write down questions if you got questions. Josh and Kelly are coming back tonight. We're going to have a dedicated farmers panel. And it's good to get into, the whole point is to get into specific practice and ask questions. Craig, how are you doing it in your farm? Kenny, how are you doing it? Joel, so it's going to be good. Let's take an hour lunch break. We'll be back here at 1:30 with Dr. Robert Faust, Fulvic, and humic acid. Super exciting. Very interesting stuff. So, thanks, guys.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the conference. I sure am having an amazing time. I'm starving. I gotta do something and exhausted. Oh my God, the dinner was terrible. Okay, so checking in later. Love y'all. Peace out.